Hi everyone, it's Catherine here from Minky Finger Cat, back with another sort of technique-y based video. Somebody asked me about my sentiments on either a blog post or a comment on YouTube, can't remember which, and mentioned about, the fact that I have pre-done sentiments. So I thought I'd just show you what I was doing, as in I went to go and do it and I thought I'll put the camera on and we'll see what happens. So the big pile of cardstock is actually scraps. These are all leftovers from bits of projects where there's quite small scraps, so definitely smaller than card front size is generally the rule. They'll go in this pouch. Anything around about card front size or slightly bigger will go in a different pouch, so that I'm not grabbing full sheets of cardstock every time and cutting into them. And also I know where to go for my card front size pieces first rather than digging through this. Now you'll see I keep scraps of all sorts of different shapes and sizes, from very, very thin ones, which I tend to end up throwing away in the end, but things like that one that I've just done there, quite fine ones, perfect for sentiments though. So I've taken this waffle flower set that I got back in early July, I think. It's a new set from Waffle Flower where it's got stamps and dies that coordinate, and I am just going through all my scraps, mainly white, but I do some colours later on, and just die cutting loads of them. I'm not stamping on it first, I'm just die cutting loads of them. And I zone out whilst I'm doing this. I'm either listening to the music or the radio or, watching a YouTube video if I've remembered to charge my iPad, which on this day I hadn't, and that's what I wanted to do, but never mind. So I actually did this in silence, which is very weird because I don't normally, but I just zone out and just see which dies will fit which pieces of paper, and they're the ones I die cut. But you can see there I'm using up tiny scraps that other people might have just thrown in the bin, but I tend to find a use for them. Now, if you were doing this and being sensible, you might count things or keep them already in piles. But again, I try to not concentrate so much whilst I'm doing it. And I just literally go through and die cut. So I've now sped up the video so that, because I figured it was already sped up, obviously, but you can see what I'm doing here. I am only grabbing colours that I think will work on Christmas cards. So to be fair, I'm not using up the entire pouch of the scraps. I'm just using ones that I think will work on Christmas cards because these are all Christmas sentiments. So mainly white. I do some black, some craft, and some lilac, some green, and some kind of like clarity coloured ones. But I leave like the yellows and the pink and the turquoise and stuff. I don't use those, even though clearly I've used that turquoise to do Christmas at some point, because at some point it's had Merry Christmas cut out of it. But I'm not thinking that that's specifically Christmassy enough. It obviously works with particular backgrounds or whatever I end up doing. But yeah, so I've gone through the entire pack, and this is the point where I actually grab a very large piece of cardstock, and this is the clue to it all. So what I do is now I put all of the dies onto the one piece of the cardstock and run that through my Big Shot, your die cutting machine, in order to get a one piece of cardstock that's got all of the shapes on it. Okay, so I've slowed it down so that you can see this in a little bit more detail. This has got every single one of those dies is on that sheet. Okay, now the fact that there's an extra block that I've clearly cut some kind of flower out of doesn't really matter. Okay, and this is going to be like my template now for my stamping. So I'm going to do a bit of tidying up before I start aligning the stamps. Okay, so put all my dies away, although at this point I'm trying to work out which order they go in. But yeah, and now I have to, this is what I'm saying, if you were organised, as you were decanting, that's not the right word, but you'll know what I mean. As you're taking the die cuts out of the dies, you'd sensibly put them into a pile. I'm not sensible. Who said I was sensible? So instead I put them into one big pile, and now I'm having to sort of sort out which one's which. Some of these are not so easy to work out, so there's a bit of fiddling that goes on. Also, if you counted as you went along, you'd know how many you'd done. And so you might miss out a step that I have to do, which is the mop-up phase, as I call it. Okay, so this is the point where I put that template, as I call it, back into not back into my stamp platform. And now I am aligning, I'm putting a little die cut into each shape, and I'm aligning where I want my stamps to be. And I'm going to do a test print. So this is where I'll stamp them once, check whether I'm happy with them, and then I can just keep re-stamping, stamping. So this is where it really is helpful. I mean, you can't do this without a stamp platform of some description, so you have to have one of those. But this is where it's really helpful that you've done loads of scraps, and they are scraps, remember. So in your head, don't matter if you mess them up, because they're scraps that you've cut them from. They were things that might have gone in the bin in other people's craft rooms. So I'm just going to ink them all up and have a look and see what I think. And at this point, the one that I wasn't happy with was the Make It Merry. So I am realigning where that Make It Merry goes. I have to obviously clean my stamp off, add it in, and now see whether I'm happier. And I'm happy with the alignment. And then you just peel them all off. Now, I've got a little sticky grid mat kind of thing that's in my stamp platform, and the reason for that is it just helps to keep things in place when you're doing them, so you don't really need to use your magnets. It doesn't work so well once you've started using embossing powder, which I'll use later on, but yeah, that's what that's for. So when I'm peeling up those die cuts, I am having to use my little pokey tool just to get them out of the slots and off that sticky sheet. If you didn't have the sticky sheet, you wouldn't have that problem. So I go through, and first of all, I stamp quite a few in black. And then I decided to stamp some in green, in a dark green and a lighter green. This is where I'm just working on the white ones. So I've got a couple of different colours going on. Again, I'm choosing colours that I think I'll use on Christmas cards at some point in the future. Now, at this point, I'm pulling in some of the more coloured cardstock pieces. Obviously, if you've just done them all white, it's so much easier. You just keep going with whatever colour, whatever. But I decided for these I was going to emboss them. I haven't actually got much gold powder left, so I really do need to buy some more gold embossing at some point. But yeah, at this point I'm just having fun embossing, but these are quite tricky to emboss because they are quite fiddly, so you do need your tweezers. Ideally reverse tweezers, but I don't seem to have mine to hand. I don't know where mine have gone. And I just do it like that. And again, because that template is the same size template as it was before, I've not moved any of my stamps. This is perfect for re-stamping. I'm putting in the next lot, and this time I've gone in with a silver embossing powder, and again fiddling with them but getting them all embossed. And I think I go back in again, possibly with a colour. Oh no, that's it. Right, okay, so I've popped my stamp platform to one side. I did put some scrap paper in just to protect that sticky mat a little bit, and now is the point of gluing. So what I mean by gluing is you could absolutely go and stamp every single one of those little die cuts that you've done. But what I really like is quite a chunky little sentiment. This is very much Jennifer Maguire. And I must say, my tip for doing this, I'm not entirely sure if it's Jennifer, but I think I've seen her do it in this way, in terms of the die cutting all at once kind of thing. But I think I've also seen it on Prairie Paper and Ink, Amy R. I think she's done it too. I've definitely seen it on other people's things. This is not my idea of how to do it. It's just this is the way I do it, but I don't think I came up with the idea. So the people that I follow, probably for Jennifer, is probably where I've got it from, but I can't think off the top of my head which video it comes from. But yeah, so what I like is chunky little stacked sentiments. It gives them a bit of dimension, gives them some strength. So not for every single one, because sometimes I only have one strip cut in that particular colour. Well, therefore I've got nothing to stack it with. I mean, I could stack it with white or black, but I don't bother with that. They go straight into the pouch. But for the others, I'm usually adding one or two layers. Sometimes I add more than that, just because I end up messing up occasionally and I put glue over the sentiment like an absolute idiot. But again, this is a really zoned out thing to do. I think in total for this, I probably took about an hour and a half, maybe, to do all of these. Yeah, probably about that. And that probably included me going and getting a coffee in the middle. But I had fun, I enjoyed it. Now, what that's left me with, you can see over to the left-hand side, is there are some where I just can't pair them up, or I've not actually stamped one in that colour, so I need to stamp some more. So that's what I call my mop-up time. So I'm on my final one before I go into the mop-up. And the mop-up's a bit messier, mainly because you do need to concentrate a bit, and I didn't concentrate brilliantly. Oh yeah, you can see, sorry, the other thing that I do is I stick them underneath something heavy to dry. So I just use quite a large acrylic block there that I'm putting them under, and then when they've been under that for a few minutes, I've done another couple, I tend to then pull them off and pop them into the pouch. Okay, we're into mop-up time now. So this is where I've got some leftover die cuts that I've just not stamped enough, or I've not stamped enough in that particular colour. And this is where I'm just fiddling around, doing those last bits and pieces. I do keep most of them to the black ink, just to make it easier for myself. I do have to sort of like fiddle and bring the sentiments back in and out a few times. And I think by this time I've probably cleaned them a few times, so they've actually got a little bit wonky. I tend to clean with baby wipes, but I haven't got any in stock in the house at the moment. So I was cleaning with a spray and a cloth, which is perfectly fine and works perfectly, except for it can just slightly move the sentiments. So it's not ideal for this technique. A baby wipe tends to be a little bit better at keeping the sentiments in the right place. But you can see there, I have to fiddle around quite a bit to get these last few and making sure that I've definitely got enough. In fact, I think I end up with just one at the end where I have to bring this platform back in again and have another go. So yeah, that's basically how I do it. I don't think there's anything else I need to explain. Oh, sorry, these ones I just did with a bit of white embossing. So there are a few that are just black with a black die cut with white heat embossing. And again, because I was feeling a bit lazy, I didn't bring out my Versamark this time. I just used Versafine and then put white embossing on, so one of them goes a little bit grey coloured because it's just picked up the pigment from underneath it. I probably overheated it, is probably why. So you can see here, final ones just being put together, and then it was just this last one that just needed stamping. I hadn't got anything to stack it with, so it was dead simple. And then it's important to just do that quick clean, tidy up, put everything away, and I end up with this little puddle of, I say little, it's quite a large puddle of sentiments. So that's how I do that. I hope you enjoyed it, seeing the process. Thumbs up if you did. Leave me a comment below, do you do this? And until next time, bye-bye.